music chasing me down the street. I didn't talk to him for the rest of the night. Or the next day. When Nora called, I told her everything. Maybe he was just trying to act cool in front of his friends, she said carefully. Or maybe he meant it, I said bitterly. Maybe this was all a joke to him. But deep down, I didn't believe that. Deep down, I remembered the roof, the flashlight, the way he'd looked at me when the music played. And deep down, I hated that I cared. By Sunday, the silence between our houses felt heavy. I sat at my window, staring at his, waiting for music, waiting for something. When it finally came, it wasn't music. It was a knock at the front door. I opened it, and there he stood, hands shoved deep in his pockets, no smirk this time. His eyes met mine, serious, uncertain. "Can we talk?" he asked. I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. "Talk about what?" Liam shifted his weight, his sneakers scuffing against the porch floor. The usual smirk was gone. His shoulders slouched like he was carrying something heavy. "About Friday," he said. I narrowed my eyes. "You mean the part where you told your friends I wished I was your girlfriend?" His jaw tightened. "I didn't mean it like that." "Really?" Because it sounded pretty clear to me. Behind us, Daisy barked once and then trotted back inside, clearly uninterested in teenage drama. I almost envied her. "Annie," he said, lowering his voice. "Can I just explain?" I hesitated. Part of me wanted to slam the door in his face and lock it. The other part, the part that remembered the roof, the flashlight, the football games, wanted to hear every word. "Fine," I muttered, stepping aside. "But make it quick." We sat at the edge of the porch, the wood still warm from the day's sun. The cicadas screamed in the trees, filling the silence until he finally spoke. "My friends," he began, running a hand through his hair, "they're jerks sometimes. If they think you care about anything, they'll tear you apart. And if they think you care about someone," he trailed off, shaking his head. "So you thought it was better to humiliate me?" My voice cracked, sharper than I intended. His gaze snapped to mine. "No. I thought it was better if they didn't know. If they didn't mess with you." I blinked. "If they didn't mess with me?" "Yeah." He looked away, staring at the hedge between our houses. "You don't know how they get. They'll push, they'll tease, they'll..." I cut him off. "So you lied to protect me?" "Yes." His answer was immediate, firm. Then softer, and because I didn't know how to say the truth. The truth. The word dangled in the air between us, heavy and dangerous. I swallowed hard. "And what's the truth, Liam?" His eyes met mine then, steady and unguarded. "That I don't think this is a joke. That he stopped, exhaling shakily. "That I like being around you. More than I should." My heart lurched, traitorous and eager. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to fall into that truth like it was a safety net. But another part of me screamed to keep my guard up. "You've got a weird way of showing it," I whispered. He half smiled, sheepish. "Yeah, I know." We sat in silence for a long moment. Porch light flickered above us, moths batting against the bulb. My fingers fidgeted in my lap, twisting the hem of my shorts. His hand rested close, too close, on the wood between us. If I shifted just a little, our hands would touch. I didn't shift. Instead, I said, "If you want to prove it's not a joke, you'll have to do better than words." His eyebrows lifted. "Better than words?" "Actions," I said. "Show me." He nodded slowly, like he'd expected nothing less. "Okay, I will." And then he stood, hands back in his pockets, and walked down the steps without another word. The next few days were strange. At school, he didn't sit with his basketball friends at lunch. He sat near me and Nora instead, not too close, but close enough that everyone noticed. When one of the guys called out a joke about me, Liam shut it down with a single glare. At home, he stopped blasting his music. Instead, he left his window open just enough for me to hear faint strums of his guitar. I didn't even know he played. The sound was soft, unpolished, almost shy. And once, when Daisy slipped out the gate again, he was the one who caught her before she reached the street. He brought her back, smiling as she licked his cheek. "See," he said, handing her over. Actions. I didn't know whether to roll my eyes or thank him, so I did both. By Friday, I couldn't deny it anymore. He was trying. Really trying. And it was working. Which terrified me. 'Cause if I let myself fall for him, really fall, what if he dropped me? Not off a roof this time. Of something worse, his attention, his care, whatever this was between us. I told Nora everything during a late-night call. "Sounds like he's serious," she said. "Or sounds like he's good at pretending," I countered. "Annie," her voice softened. "Sometimes people mess up. Sometimes they don't know how to say what they feel. Doesn't mean it's fake." I stared at my ceiling long after we hung up, my chest tight with confusion. Saturday morning, I found something taped to my window. It was a note, written in block letters just like the grocery list that had blown over in the storm. "Meet me at the old playground. Noon. Trust me. Al." My stomach flipped. Trust him? After everything? I didn't know what waited for me at that playground, but I knew one thing. I couldn't stay away. I stared at the note for what felt like forever. Noon. Playground. Trust me. 2 words stood out like they were written in neon. Trust me. That was the problem. I didn't know if I could. By 11:45, I was pacing my room, Daisy watching me with her head cocked like she knew I was about to do something reckless. Mom was out grocery shopping, Nora wasn't answering her texts, and I had exactly 0 excuses to avoid the meeting. My heart beat too fast as I slipped on sneakers, grabbed my hoodie, and walked out the door. The old playground sat at the edge of Maple Ridge Park, half forgotten, its swings rusty and its slides squeaky. I hadn't been there since I was 10. When I arrived, the place was empty except for Liam sitting on top of the jungle gym, legs dangling, hair catching the sunlight. "You came?" he said, hopping down when he saw me. I crossed my arms. "Of course I came. You left a creepy note taped to my window." He smirked. "Romantic gesture, creepy note, it's all about perspective." I rolled my eyes. "So, what's this about?" He led me to the swings and we sat side by side, the chains creaking as we swayed. For a while, he didn't speak. The silence stretched until I couldn't take it anymore. "If you dragged me here just to swing, I'm leaving." "I wanted to show you something," he said finally. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his hoodie pocket and handed it to me. I unfolded it slowly. It was a drawing, rough, pencil-sketched, but full of detail. It was my house. My porch. Even Daisy curled up on the steps. "You drew this?" I asked. He nodded, suddenly shy. "I've been sketching since I was a kid. Helps me think. Helps me breathe." I ran my fingers over the lines. "It's good. Really good." He shrugged like it didn't matter, but I could see the tension in his jaw. "I wanted you to know I wasn't lying, Annie. About Friday. About me. I'm not good with words, but this," he gestured to the drawing. "This is real." My throat tightened. Nobody had ever drawn me before, let alone my life. "Why me?" I whispered. His eyes met mine, steady. "Because you make me want to be better. And because," he hesitated, then said, "because I like you." The words hung between us like a secret I wasn't supposed to hear. I should have run. Should have laughed. Should have said something sarcastic to break the moment. But instead, I just sat there, my heart hammering. "Liam," I said carefully, "I don't know if I can trust you yet." "I'll give you time," he said softly. We swung in silence, the rusty chains creaking with every breath. For the first time, I didn't feel like we were fighting. I felt seen. Of course, peace never lasts. That evening, Mom and I were sitting down to dinner when she casually said, "Did you know Liam's mom used to be friends with your dad?" My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "What?" She nodded. "Back in high school. They reconnected at the block party." I swallowed hard. And you didn't think to tell me this sooner? I didn't think it mattered, Mom said, sipping her water. But it did matter. 'Cause suddenly, Liam wasn't just the boy next door. He was tangled in my family's history in ways I didn't understand yet. The next day, whispers at school added fuel to the fire. 2 girls from my English class cornered me by my locker. "So, Annie," one of them smirked, "is it true you and the new guy are a thing?" I blinked. "What?" "Everyone's talking about it," the other girl said. "We saw you at the playground. Together." Heat crawled up my neck. "Were you spying on me?" They laughed and walked away before I could answer, leaving me burning with embarrassment. When I caught sight of Liam across the hall, leaning casually against a locker, his eyes met mine. I couldn't tell if he knew about the rumors. Couldn't tell if he cared. That afternoon, I found another note at my window. "Ignore them. Meet me again tomorrow. Same place." Ow. My heart twisted. Part of me wanted to go. Part of me wanted to slam the window shut and never speak to him again. Because the truth was, I was starting to fall, and falling scared me more than anything. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his note taped against my window. Same place. Same time. Ignore them. But ignoring people was easier said than done. School, the whispers had grown louder. Every hallway I walked down seemed to echo with Annie and Liam, followed by giggles or smirks. By lunchtime, I couldn't even enjoy my sandwich without feeling like someone was watching me. "High school is brutal," Nora muttered, swiping half of my fries. "You have 2 options, deny everything or own it." "I'm not owning it," I snapped, a little too fast. "Because there's nothing to own. We're not like that." Nora raised an eyebrow. "So why are you blushing right now?" I shoved the rest of my fries at her just to shut her up. By the time the next day rolled around, I had convinced myself I wasn't going to the playground. I had homework, chores, better things to do than meet the boy who made my life complicated. And yet, at 11:45, I found myself lacing up my sneakers. At 11:55, I was halfway down Willow Lane, telling myself I was only going for closure. Playground was empty again, except for him. He sat on the swings this time, hood up, head bent over another sketchbook. "You came," he said without looking up. "I almost didn't," I admitted. "But you did." I hated that he was right. He closed his sketchbook and finally looked at me. His expression was serious, none of the usual smirk. "People are going to talk, Annie. About me. About you. You can't stop that." "Thanks for the pep talk," I muttered, kicking at the gravel. "I'm saying," he continued, "you have to decide if what they say matters more than what you feel." My heart tripped. "And what do you feel?" His eyes held mine steadily. "You already know." The world seemed to tilt. My breath caught. And before I could process, he leaned forward just slightly, close enough that I felt the warmth of his words when he whispered, "I like you. I've liked you since the day we collided at the coffee shop. Even when you called me Beetle Boy." I blinked fast. That was supposed to be an insult. He grinned faintly. Best insult I've ever gotten. For a second, everything was still. Just me, him, the rusty swings creaking. And then, of course, the universe intervened. "Annie Carter." I spun around, heart lurching. Mom stood at the edge of the playground, arms crossed, eyes blazing. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. Panic flooded me. I was just with him." She glared at Liam like he was the devil himself. "Get up. We're leaving. Now." Liam stood too, his posture tense. "Mrs. Carter, it's not." "Don't," Mom snapped. "Don't talk to me. And don't you dare drag my daughter into whatever trouble you're bringing to this neighborhood." Her words cut sharper than the storm wind. Liam's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. He just looked at me once, hurt, frustrated, unreadable, and then turned away. I wanted to scream. To tell Mom she was wrong. To tell Liam not to leave. But my throat locked up, and all I could do was follow Mom's footsteps out of the park, my chest aching. That night, the silence between our houses wasn't just heavy. It was suffocating. I sat at my window, staring at the dark shape of his, waiting for music, for light, for something. Nothing came. When I finally crawled into bed, Mom's words echoed in my head. Trouble. Don't you dare. But deep down, I knew I was already in too deep. Mom barely spoke to me the next morning. She banged around the kitchen making coffee, the clatter of mugs louder than usual, her silence sharper than words. When I slid into a chair, she didn't look at me. "You're grounded," she said finally. I blinked. What? No hanging out at that playground. No sneaking off. And definitely no Liam Parker. Her voice cracked his name like it was poison. I gripped the edge of the table. "You don't even know him." "I know enough," she shot back. "Boys like him, charming, careless, trouble. I won't let you get dragged into it." My throat tightened. "He's not like that." Her eyes finally met mine, fierce and unyielding. "Annie," I said no. And just like that, the conversation was over. School, the rumors were worse. Someone had snapped a picture of me and Liam at the playground and posted it on Snapchat with the caption, "Coffee shop enemies to playground lovers." By lunch, everyone had seen it. I wanted to disappear. Liam sat across the cafeteria, surrounded by his teammates. He caught my eye once, his face unreadable, then looked away. The space between us felt like an ocean. Nora slid into the seat beside me. Yikes. They're really running with this. I slammed my tray shut. I can't do this. Can't do what? Be the joke. Be whatever this is. My voice cracked. Nora reached for my hand. Then talk to him. Figure out what's real and what's just noise. That evening, I waited until Mom left for her book club. The second her car disappeared down Willow Lane, I grabbed my hoodie and slipped out the back. Daisy yipped softly but didn't follow. I headed for the playground, heart pounding. But Liam wasn't there. Instead, I found him sitting on his porch steps, sketchbook balanced on his knees, a pencil tapping against the page. His hoodie was pulled low, his expression shadowed. "You're grounded," he said without looking up. I froze. "How do you know that?" He glanced up, eyes dark. "I heard your mom yelling last night." "Oh." My chest ached. Silence stretched between us. Finally, I asked, "Why does she hate you so much?" "She doesn't even know you." His jaw clenched. Closed the sketchbook slowly. "She knows more than you think." "What's that supposed to mean?" He hesitated, then sighed. "My dad." The words dropped heavy. "What about him?" I asked carefully. "He used to live here," Liam said, his voice low. "On this street. Before I was born. He and your dad were not friends. Something happened between them. Something bad." My stomach flipped. "Wait, what kind of bad?" He shook his head. "I don't know the details. Mom never talks about it. But I heard enough to know that's why she moved us here. To start over. And I think your mom hasn't forgiven him for it." I stared at him, my mind spinning. Our parents. A history I knew nothing about. Suddenly, Mom's harsh words made a terrible kind of sense. "She thinks I'm my dad," Liam whispered, almost too soft to hear. "That I'll turn out the same way. Maybe she's right." "No," I said fiercely. "She's not right. You're not him." His eyes searched mine, desperate, vulnerable. "How do you know?" "Because I've seen you," I said, my voice trembling. "You catch Daisy. You help your mom. You," my words caught. "You save me." For a moment, neither of us moved. The night was quiet except for the hum of crickets. And then, slowly, he reached for my hand. I let him. But just as our fingers touched, a car pulled into my driveway. Mom. Her headlights swept across the lawn, catching us in their beam like two kids caught stealing candy. Her door slammed, her footsteps thundered toward us. "Annie Carter," she shouted, her face pale with fury. "Inside. Now." I jerked my hand back from Liam's, my chest hollow. He stood, his expression unreadable again, the wall back up. "Go," he whispered. And I did. That night, Mom's anger filled every corner of the house. "I warned you," she hissed. "That boy will break you. And I won't watch you ruin yourself." Tears blurred my vision. "You're wrong." But she didn't listen. And as I cried into my pillow later, one truth burned bright. I was already falling for the boy next door. And no amount of rules, rumors, or history could stop it. I didn't speak to Mom the next morning. She stormed around the kitchen, muttering about ungrateful teenagers and history repeating itself, while I shoveled cereal into my mouth without tasting it. Every word between us was heavy with everything we weren't saying. By the time I got to school, my stomach was twisted in knots. I couldn't focus. Not on math, not on chemistry, not even on English, the one subject I usually loved. Because all I could think about was Liam's words. "My dad used to live here. Something happened between him and your dad." After last period, I found Liam leaning against the lockers, sketchbook tucked under his arm. He looked up when he saw me, relief flickering across his face. "You okay?" he asked quietly. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to be strong. But the truth slipped out before I could stop it. "No." He nodded like he understood. "Walk with me." We ended up in the library. It was almost empty, just a few kids whispering over laptops. We sat at the far table, out of sight. "Tell me everything you know," I said. He hesitated, tapping his pencil against the cover of his sketchbook. "I told you most of it already. My mom said my dad got into trouble when he was younger. Fights, bad choices. Something about stealing. He left before I was born. I never met him. Do you know his name?" I asked. Liam's voice dropped. "Michael." My spoon clattered in my memory. Dad had told stories once, late at night when I was little, about a kid named Michael from his school days. Kid who made the wrong friends. Kid who nearly dragged Dad into trouble. "Oh my God," I whispered. "What?" Liam leaned forward. "My dad, he knew him. He really knew him." The bell rang, cutting us off. We parted ways with a promise to figure it out. But my chest burned with questions all the way home. When I walked through the door, Mom was in the living room sorting laundry. I stood there, fists clenched, heart pounding. "Why didn't you ever tell me about Michael?" I demanded. Her head snapped up, her face going pale. "Where did you hear that name?" "Liam," I said. "He's his son, isn't he?" The silence was my answer. Mom dropped the laundry basket, clothes spilling across the rug. She sank onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. "I didn't want you mixed up in any of that." "In what?" My voice rose. "Michael was trouble," she said finally. "Your father barely escaped that mess. They stole cars, Annie. They almost got arrested. If your father hadn't cut ties, his whole future would have been gone. And now Michael's son is next door." Her voice cracked. "Mom," I said slowly, "Liam isn't his dad." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't know that." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I grabbed my hoodie and bolted out the door before she could stop me. Liam was on his porch, sketchbook in his lap again. He looked up, startled, when I marched across the lawn. "She told me," I said, breathless. "About your dad. About the cars. About everything." His face hardened. "Of course she did." "I don't care," I blurted. He blinked. "What?" "I don't care what your dad did. That's not you. You're not him." For a second, his mask cracked. His eyes shone, raw and vulnerable. "You really believe that?" "Yes," I whispered. And then, without thinking, I stepped closer. Close enough that the air between us felt electric. Close enough that I could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. But before anything could happen, Claire's voice cut through the moment. Liam. She stood at their doorway, phone in hand, her face pale. It's your father. My blood turned to ice. Liam froze. What? Claire's voice shook. He's out. He's coming here. The world tilted beneath me. The words hit me like a punch. He's out. He's coming here. For a second, none of us moved. The street was quiet except for the buzz of cicadas in the trees, but everything inside me roared. Liam stood frozen, his jaw clenched, his eyes darting between his mom and me. When? He finally asked. Tonight, Claire said, gripping the phone like it might bite her. He called. Said he wants to see you. Her voice broke. Liam, I told him no. I told him he's not welcome. But he doesn't care. I felt my stomach twist. Michael Parker, the man who nearly ruined my dad's life, the man my mom hated, was coming here. To Willow Lane. And suddenly, all of Mom's warnings didn't sound so crazy anymore. That night, I sat at my window, staring across the hedge. Liam's room glowed faintly with lamplight. He was pacing, shadow moving back and forth against the blinds. Then my phone buzzed. A text from him. Meet me at the playground. It's midnight. Please. My pulse spiked. Midnight? My mom was already asleep. I should have ignored it. I should have locked my phone away. But I didn't. Playground looked different at night. Shadows stretched across the gravel. The swings creaked in the breeze, empty. The jungle gym looked like a skeleton in the dark. Liam was already there, hood up, sketchbook in his hands. You came, he said softly. I had to. My voice shook. What are you going to do? He exhaled, dropping onto the swing. I don't know. Part of me wants to see him. Just once. To ask why he left. To ask why he never wanted me. His voice cracked. But the other part knows he'll wreck everything if I let him in. I sat beside him, the chains groaning under my weight. You're not him, Liam. Whatever he did, it's not you. He looked at me, eyes shining in the moonlight. You really believe that? Yes. My throat was tight. More than anything. We sat in silence, the night humming around us. Then, slowly, he reached for my hand. This time, I didn't pull away. The sound of an engine shattered the moment. We both turned. Car pulled up at the curb, headlights slicing through the dark. A man stepped out, broad shoulders, leather jacket, hair streaked with gray. His face was rough, lined, but the resemblance was there. Liam's jaw. Liam's eyes, only darker. Michael Parker. He walked toward us with a swagger that made my skin crawl. So, this is my son, he said, his voice low and mocking. All grown up. Liam stood, his grip tightening on my hand before he let go. Stay back, he warned. Michael smirked. Relax. I just want to talk. Claire's voice suddenly cut across the park. No, Michael. She was running, flashlight in hand, fear etched across her face. My mom was with her, panting, furious. You're not welcome here. Michael's eyes flicked between them, then back to Liam. You hear that? Even your mother doesn't want me. But I'm your father, Liam. You can't change that. Liam's voice shook, but it was steady enough. You're not my father. Not really. A father doesn't leave. A father doesn't wreck everything he touches. You're just a man I don't know. And don't want to know. For the first time, Michael's smirk faltered. Claire stepped between them, her voice fierce. Leave. Now. Before I call the police. For a tense moment, I thought he might fight. His fists clenched. His eyes burned. But then he spat on the ground, turned, and stalked back to his car. The engine roared, the tires screeched, and then he was gone, like a storm passing, leaving wreckage behind. Silence. Liam stood frozen, chest heaving. Claire wrapped her arms around him, her tears spilling into his hoodie. My mom's hand rested on my shoulder, tight, protective. But my eyes were on him, on the boy next door who had just chosen who he wanted to be. And in that moment I knew. He wasn't Michael's son. Not really. He was Liam. Just Liam. And that was enough. The weeks that followed weren't easy. People still whispered at school. Mom still worried. Claire still looked over her shoulder sometimes, afraid Michael might return. But something had changed. Liam and I didn't pretend anymore. We didn't fight over music through our windows. We didn't hide at the playground like fugitives. We walked together. We laughed together. We learned how to be something new. Maybe it wasn't love yet. Maybe it was just the fragile beginning of it. But it was ours. And every time our hands brushed on the porch steps at the lemonade stand under the streetlights, I remembered that night, that choice, that moment when he let go of the past and held on to me instead. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more and interesting stories.